Hello everyone. Today we're going to check your factoring polynomials practice. Let's take a look at number 1. Oh, just as a reminder, we have two strategies. We have factor out the greatest common factor, and then we have magic X. And remember, it could be one, the other, or both that we have to use. So I always ask myself first, like on number 1, do I have a greatest common factor I can factor out? No, I don't. So now I'm going to use magic X. My A coefficient is 1, B is 8, C is 7. So magic X has your back. B is 8, 1 times 7 is 7. And the only factors I have of 7 are 1 and 7. And luckily, those do multiply to give me 7, but they add to give me 8. So my factors are B plus 1 times B plus 7. And if I do, or when I do a quick check, so first of all, these are my factors, but I'm going to check and make sure using FOILs. First, outside, inside, last, simplify, and that does give me back my original trinomial, so this is my answer. Take a look at number 2. N squared minus 11n plus 10. I don't see a greatest common factor I can factor out. It is a trinomial, so I'm just going to go ahead and use magic X. Magic X has your back. So here's A, B, C. B is negative 11. A times C, 1 times 10 is 10. The factors, I don't even have to write them down. I'm going to use 1 times 10 and make them both negative, because negative 1 minus 10 is negative 11, and negative 1 times negative 10 is positive 10. So my factors are n minus 1 times n minus 10. So I have now factored that completely. I'm going to do a quick check. First, outside, inside, last, simplify, and that did give me my original problem back, so I know these are the correct factors for this trinomial. Number 3, I don't see a greatest common factor I can factor out, so magic X has your back. Our A is 1, B is 4, C is negative 12. So 4, 1 times negative 12 is negative 12. So let's do our factors of 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and I'm going to stop there because if I make the 2 negative, 6 minus 2 is 4, and negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. So my factors are n minus 2 times n plus 6. So I've now completely factored number 3. Now I'm not going to check the next few just for the sake of time. However, I do encourage you to do that specifically when you're doing it on a quiz or a test and we're not checking it together. So look at number 4. I do not see a common factor I can factor out, so I'm going straight to magic X has your back. So A is 1, B is negative 4, C is 24. So I'm going to write negative 4 up here, and 1 times 24 is 24. My factors of 24 are 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Let's see, have I missed anything? 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. And do any of those combine, add or subtract to give us negative 4? Well, 24 plus 1 is 25 or 23, no. 2 times 12 either gives us 14 or 10. 3 times 8 either gives us 11 if you add, or 5 if you subtract. 4 and 6 give us either 10 or 2. So, that being said, number 4 is not factorable, Or remember, you could have said this is prime. Okay, either one of those would be correct. Number 5. First, excuse me. Do I have any factors or any GCFs I could factor out? I've got 2, 22, and 60. And it looks to me like all of those are evenly divisible by 2. So 2k squared divided by 2 is k squared. 22k divided by 2 is 11k. And 60 divided by 2 gives us 30. So now I can use magic X, has your back, on that trinomial. So my A is 1, B is 11, C is 30. So I'm going to put 11, and 1 times 30 is 30. I already think I know what it is without writing all my factors out, but I'll go ahead and do that just so you can check yourself. You have 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. That's what I'm going for right there. 5 plus 6 is 11. 5 times 6 is 30. So I have 2 times k plus 5 times k plus 6. These are the 3 factors of that polynomial. Look at number 6. Well, if you'll remember, we cannot have to use magic X, we can't have a negative or a -1 on that first or as a leading coefficient. So I'm going to factor out a -1, which just means all the signs change. This becomes v squared minus 7v plus 10. And now I can use magic X. So my b is -7, a times c gives us 10, and my factors of 10, I have 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. And I can see that 2 and 5, if I make them both negative, will add to give us -7 and multiply to give us positive 10. So our factors are -1, but I'm going to make that 1 invisible. So then I have times v minus 2 times v minus 5. So those are the 3 factors of this trinomial: -1, v minus 2, and v minus 5. Now take a look at 7. I don't have a trinomial anymore, but remember, we always start by asking ourselves, can I factor out a greatest common factor? And in this case, I can. I have x squared, and then I have -6x. I can factor an x out of both of those. So I'm left with x minus 6. So my factors are x and x minus 6. Let's take a look at 8. So I have 9x cubed plus 30x. Well, it's not a trinomial, so right now I'm not going to use magic X for that. But I do notice I can factor out a GCF. 9 and 30 are both divisible by 3. And also, I have 3 x's here and 1 x here, so I can factor out an x. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. X cubed, if I factor out one of the x's, I'm left with 2 x's, or x squared. 30 divided by 3 is 10. And I have an x, but I factor one out, so there are no x's left there. So this is now completely factored. Take a look at number 9. I have m to the third n plus 9m squared n. So there are no numbers that I can factor out, but I do notice I have 3 m's here and 2 here. So I can factor 2 of them out. I also have an n here and an n here. So I'm going to factor out an n as well. So once I factor out 2 of the m's on the first term, I'm left with m, and the n was factored out. Plus 9, m squared was factored out, and n was factored out. So now I have completely factored that polynomial. Last but not least, let's take a look at number 10. Now I notice all three of my numbers are divisible by 3. I notice there are x's in every term. I have, let me make this a little smaller. I have 5 x's here, I have 4 here, and I have 3 here. So the most x's I can factor out is 3. There we go, hide that. Okay, so we have x to the third. Next, let's look at our y's. I have 2 y's here, 2 y's here, and 2 y's here, so I can factor out 2 y's. Now let's see what we're left with. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. X to the fifth, take 3 of them out, you're left with 2, and we factored out all the y's. Now let's take a look at the second term. 9 divided by 3 is 3. X to the fourth, you factor out 3, you're left with 1, and we factored out both y's. Minus 6 divided by 3 is 2. X to the third, we factored all those out. Y to the second, we factored all those out. So these right now are our two factors. 3x cubed y squared times 4x squared plus 3x minus 2. Now, I know that is a trinomial. And I also know that we can use magic x on it, but we're going to take a look at these type of trinomials in our next lesson. So for right now, we're going to say this is factored. It's not completely factored, but this will lead into our next lesson. So if you have it to this point, I want you to mark that correct.